In this video, we're going to do a few things. We're going to add in a couple new scripts to kind of separate everything out instead of having everything in our world generator script. So we're going to have a terrain generator and we're going to have a biome generator. And then once we have those set up, this will allow us to have our world generate different biomes. So we're going to have it generate a grass biome with some dirt underneath, and then a sand biome. You can see here that it has a specific sand tile at the top and then sand underneath. And then the same with a ice or snow biome. So we have ice on the top and then snow underneath. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started on that. So now that we have our world generating and adding in some tiles, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make it separate the world out here into some different biomes. So we'll go ahead and work on that. So it's going to have, one biome here of normal dirt and grass, and then one of like snow, and then another one of sand or desert, for example. So currently we have our one script for our world generator, and this has everything in it. So we're generating our height map for the top row, how it's going up and down with the hills, or whether it's flat there, for example. And then we're also filling in the tile map here with the grass and the dirt tiles. So in this video, we're gonna separate out the world generator script, and then we're gonna create two new scripts. One for the terrain generator, which is basically gonna be this section here is pretty much all it's gonna do for now. And then we're also gonna add in another script for the biome generator. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started on that and see how that works. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to need to create the two new scripts. So the first one is going to be terrain generator. Let's move this over a little bit so we can see. And then the next one, we'll do another one, is going to be for the biomes. So biome generator. And now I'm also going to need to attach these two new scripts to our world generator. And if we wanted to, we could create a new game object over here. However, I'm going to leave it like this for now, as I don't think this is too complex. And then maybe later on we might create new objects here that'll contain each script, but for now we'll leave it like this. So we're going to start off in our terrain generator script here, as this one should be the easiest to complete for us. So to start, I'm just going to clean up the script. I'm going to delete all this stuff, the start and the update as well. And then I'm going to hop over to our world generator script here. And we're going to want to grab two things to start with. We're going to want these two serialized fields here, the noise scale and the hill height, as we're going to use those in the other script. So I'm going to do Control X to delete them from here. And then I'm just going to paste them in this other script. And now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to create, let's fix this. And now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to create a function. And this one is going to be public. And it's going to be an array of an int. So we're going to say int with the little box there. And then we're going to call it generate. I'm going to call it generate terrain heights. And inside of here, we're actually going to take in two ints. And the first one is going to be the width. And then the second one is going to be the height. And then for this, what we're going to do is in our world generator script, we're going to come back over here and we can basically copy this section here under generate the height map for the top row, and do a Control X again to delete that and just paste it in our terrain generator script. And then after our for loop, what we'll want to do is we're going to want to leave a couple spaces and we're going to do return top row heights as well. And then one other thing that we're going to want to do here is for our hill height, or when we're calculating this for our tile map's height, after hill height here, we're going to want to say plus our height, and then we're going to want to divide that by 2. So doing this is going to balance the terrain distribution and make it centered, if you will. So that way it's going to start halfway up from the tile map. And then should look a little bit more natural looking, and it'll leave some areas at the top, but it'll fill in most of the bottom for us. And we'll see how that looks once we go back and generate our terrain as well. And then what we'll need to do now that we set this terrain generator script up is we'll need to go into our world generator script, and we'll actually need to make sure we're calling this and it's being ran. So I'm actually going to do two things here. The first thing that I'm going to do is at the top, we have this area where we're basically validating if these components are correct or are set. And just to clean this up a little bit, I'm going to actually make this into its own function. So down here outside of generate world, I'm going to make a bool, and I'm going to call it validate components. And what we'll do is we'll just take this and we'll put it down here. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to return false. Oops. So if none of these are active, or if they're all null, then we're going to return false. Otherwise, we will return true for our Boolean here. And then what we can do is at the top of generate world, the first thing that we're going to want to do is check that validation. So we'll write an if statement, and with an exclamation point here, we'll say validate components. And then we're just going to say return. So this is saying if we cannot validate the opponents, or if this isn't true. So if it's false, then we're going to return, and we're not going to proceed at that point. And then now the next thing that we're going to want to do is, once we've confirmed that that's working, the next thing is we're going to want to set up the top row heights, or generate the terrain heights that we just created here in our terrain generator. So before we can use our terrain generator script in our world generator script, we're going to want to go back up to the top here. And here we're going to want to get a reference to it. So I'm just going to do this at the top, as we're going to be moving some of these things here in a moment. And this is going to be a serialized field. And it's going to be of type terrain generator. And then I'm just going to call this terrain generator. And we'll set that in the editor here. But what we're going to want to do is we'll want to come down here, and after we validate our components and make sure that they're working, this is where we're going to want to go ahead and generate that terrain. So what we'll do is we're going to say int, and this is going to be of an array, and this is going to be a top. This is what we'll call this one top row heights. In here, this is going to equal our terrain generator, and we're going to say terrain generator dot generate the terrain heights, as that's what we called it, with the width and the height. And now we'll see that our errors and everything are gone because it wasn't being called before, but now it is being called. All right, so at this point, if we were to hop back into our editor and try this out, we should get the same result. The first thing that we'll have to do, though, is we'll have to go back to our world generator here, and under our world generator script, we'll now have to add in our terrain generator. So that's just going to be our world generator because it has the script on it. And now if we click play, we should see basically the same result. So it's kind of started halfway, if you will, and then it's going to, from the halfway part is, so 50 up, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. This is where it's going to generate the hills. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on generating our biomes now. So before we do that, we're going to want to go ahead and click over here on our world tile map, and we're going to want to set up our new tiles. So I'm just going to scroll a little bit here, and then I'm going to go to our tiles, and similar to the dirt with the grass that we had for the grass top and then dirt below it, we're going to want to do the same thing for our other ones. So we have a couple options here. We do have these dirt with the sand and dirt with the snow, but I don't really like these and the way that they look, because it's going to be snow, dirt, and then if we used the snow one below that, it's going to look kind of weird, I think. So what I'm going to do we're going to use snow for one of these for the bottom layer, and we're also going to use sand, which we have in here. So I'm going to drag both of those on here. And then for the tops of these ones, I think for the snow one, I'm going to use the ice for the top. So I'm going to call this snow. How did I do a snow underscore top? And then we're going to want to do the same thing for the sand. But for the sand one, I'm actually going to use this cotton one over here. as it looks close to sand. So I'm going to call that one sand_top. And then once we have those set up, we can go ahead and jump into our scripts and open up our biome generator script. All right, so in this script, I'm going to go ahead and remove the start and update as we won't need them, and then get rid of these two using statements. And instead, we're going to go ahead and add another one here. And this is going to be using Unity engine.tilemaps. So for the biomes, the first thing that we're going to do is actually right above the class. We're going to go ahead and, I'm going to do the little square brackets, and I'm going to say system.serializable. And then I'm going to, underneath this, I'm going to make a public struct, and I'm going to call it biome, biome data. And inside this struct, what we're going to have is we're going to have two public tiles. And the first one is going to be called the top tile. And the second one is going to be called, it's also going to be public tile, and I'm going to use the word under tile. So this is just going to be the tile that's going to represent the top layer of our biome, such as the grass that we used previously, that we just showed. And then the under tile would be something like the dirt. And for the struct, I don't know, the easiest way to think of this is just like, so this is just storing the data for our top tile and our under tile for us. Now inside our class biome generator here, we're going to need to start off with getting some references for our tiles. So the first thing that we can do is we can come over here to our world generator script. And in here, we previously had the grass top tile and the dirt tile. I'm going to go ahead and just delete those out of here and put them in our biome generator script for now. And then we're going to need to do the same thing here for each one of the biomes. So we're going to have the next one, we're going to have our snow top tile, and then our snow, just our normal snow tile. And we'll need to do the same thing for sand as well. And next, we're going to want to set the size of each biome section. So this is going to be another serialized field, and this one is going to be of type float, and I'm going to call mine biome size. And by default, I'm going to set mine to 100. So that's going to be a third of our current world size of 300. So we're just going to have a third of it grass, a third of it snow, and a third of it sand. So next, we're going to need to actually generate the biome data for each of the X coordinates in the world. So we're going to go ahead and create a function that creates an array of biome data structures. So what we'll do is this is going to be a public, and then here we're going to do our biome data, and we're going to say generate biomes is going to be what we call this. And it's going to take in two parameters. The first one is going to be an int, which is a width. And then the second one is going to be an integer array, and that's going to be the top row heights. So this method here, generate biomes, it's going to generate a biome. It's going to generate biome data for a given width using the array of the top row heights. And this is also going to have a return type here of biome data. That's what this is going to be for. And then this array is going to contain the information about the biomes for each X coordinate in the world. So it's going to contain like the top tile and the under tile that we set up here for each coordinate. So next we're going to go ahead and say biome data with our brackets, and we're going to call this one biomes. And that's going to equal a new biome data. And in here, we're going to say width. So this here is going to declare an array of biome data structs, and we're going to give it the name of biomes. And each one of these is going to contain that top tile and under tile that we talked about. And then here we're going to initialize the biomes array with a size that's equal to width. And the width is going to represent the total number of X coordinates across the width of the world. So next we're going to go ahead and do a for loop here, and we're going to use this to determine the biome type, whether it's going to be grass, sand, or snow. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to loop through each one of the x coordinates. So we'll say for, and it's going to be int and x equals 0. And is just like this, as long as x is less than width, we're going to add to that, similar to what we have done before. So next we're going to create a float, and this one is going to be called we'll call it biome factor. And this is going to equal x divided by our biome size. So this number is going to increase as we move along the x-axis. And now we're going to set up some math here. So the first one is we're going to say that if the biome factor, and then we're going to use the modulus symbol, and we'll say modulus 3, and if that is less than 1, then we'll want to place a biome. So I'm just going to go we'll do grass, for example, grass biome here. And to place the grass biome, what we're going to want to do is we're just going to say biomes with the array of x. So at the x position dot, top tile, and that's going to equal our grass top tile. And then we're going to want to do the same thing here, biomes, x dot under tile, and that's going to equal our dirt tile. So what we're saying is if the biome factor modulus 3 is less than 1, then the current x position or x coordinate is going to be assigned to the grass biome. And so then this is going to set the top tile to the grass top tile, and then it's going to set the tiles under that or the under tile of that biome to a dirt tile. So I'm going to try to use the Google here and explain this part just to make sure that it makes sense. So what we're saying here is if our biome factors, so the biome factor that equals our x position divided by our biome size. So if we start the first one, for example, we can say, 1 divided by 100, that's going to give us our biome factor. And then we use the modulo symbol there, and we use the number 3 because if that's what we're going to use. And then as long as that's less than 1, we're going to place our grass top tile. So for this example, this is as long as we go from 1 to 100, it's always going to be less than 1. So if we put in 11 here, this is going to be 0.11. And if we put in 91, it's going to be 0.91. And then once we cross over 100, it's going to be 101, for example. It's going to be 1.01. And that's when we're going to switch to the next one. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to say else if, and here we're going to do pretty much the same thing, but we're going to say if the biome factor modulo symbol 3, and we're going to say if it is less than 2, then we're going to place the next biome, and we're just going to go, sand biome next. And we're going to do the same thing we did here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. And instead of grass top tile, we're going to have the sand top tile. And instead of dirt tile, we're going to have the sand tile. Again, if we using the same calculation for the next 100 blocks, so this is going to cover the first 100 blocks, and then the next 100 blocks are all going to be from 100 to 200. So, no matter what number we put in here, as long as it's less than 200, this is always going to be less than 2. We can go 199, for example, and it's still going to be less than 2. But then once we go to the 200, now we're going to move to the next one, because now it is no longer less than 2. So then we're going to go ahead and say else for the moment, as we don't want to do else if anymore. So we're going to say else on all other instances. Then we're going to want to create the snow biome. And then for that one, we're going to want to do the exact same thing, except for, again, snow top tile and snow tile. And just to look at this, just to make sure that we understand, Now, again, we can go all the way up to, 300, 299, and it's going to be less than 3. So it's going to be over 2. However, once we go over the 300 mark, so if we go to 300, this is going to go back to 0. So now we would basically start back over. We would start back over here at the beginning for our grass biomes. So if we had, if our world was 600 spaces long, 600 tiles, the first one would be grass, second one would be, or the first 100 would be grass, the second 100 would be sand, the third 100 would be snow, and then for the 400 to 500, it would be grass, 500 to 600, sand, so on. Or 300, 400, 400, 500. So it would just keep repeating itself all the way up. And this will do the same thing. If we go up to 600, it's going to go back to 0 again, because of how the math operation works. Hopefully that part makes sense. So the last thing that we need to do in this method is, outside of the for loop, we just need to return biomes. So that's going to get rid of our error there as well that we had. So the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create another method here, and this one is going to be how we place the biome tiles on the tile map. So this one is going to be public as well, and we're going to call this one place biome tiles. And so we're going to need a few things for this one. For this one, we're going to need the a tile map. So this is going to be of type tile map. And we're simply going to call this tile map. Next, we're going to need an int of width. And we're going to need an int of height. And then we're also going to need an int array of our top row heights that we have. And lastly, we're going to need a type of biome data array. And this is going to be our biomes. So this is just going to be the tile map where the tiles are going to be placed. It's going to be the width of the world, the height of the tile map, and these are both in tiles, if you will. And then here we're going to have an array of ints that are representing the terrain height. So the y coordinate at each x coordinate, if you will. So each y position as we're moving along the world. And then our biome data, biomes, is going to be an array of biome data structs that we created that are each going to contain the top tile and the under tile that we created for the corresponding for each x position or x coordinate. Now for this, we already created some of this in our world generator. It's basically going to be doing the same thing. So just go ahead and I'm going to take that out and put it in here instead. I'm going to remove this comment since that's not exactly what we're doing anymore. However, we're still going to want to keep these first two for statements or for loops. And then we're just going to need to change a couple of things in here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to say if y equals, and then we don't want this height anymore. So we're just going to say if y equals our top row heights for each x, then this is where we're going to want to place the top tile of the biome. So just maybe leave a comment here. This is where we're going to place the top tile of the biome. And to do that, we're just going to do tilemap dot set tile. And that's going to equal a new vector3 int, just like we did in the last video. And that's going to be x, y, and 0. Or for the position, that's going to be our x and our y position, and then 0 on the z axis. And then we're going to pass in the biomes array for the x dot top tile. So this is how we're going to place the top tile of the biome. So we're just going to check the current y coordinate position and make sure that it matches the height specified in top row heights. And then that's basically going to mean that this y coordinate is the top of the terrain at this specific x coordinate. And if that's true, then the top tile of the biome, So the biomes x.top tile is placed at this X and Y position on the tile map. And then for now, we're just going to need the else if statement. We won't need the else one, as we're only going to do one other thing for now. So we're going to say else if, and for this one, it's going to be else if the Y is again less than the top row heights. And then we're going to say, and here we'll do tilemap dot get tile. And we're basically going to say new vector3 int. And we'll do x, y, 0. And then we'll say as long as that equals null. And so this is basically checking the y coordinate is below the terrain or the top row height. So it's below the top row. And then also we're making sure that the coordinate there is, or the coordinates there are empty. So there's not already a tile map there. And if that's the case, then what we're going to want to do is we're going to set the under tile. So here again, we're going to do tilemap.setTile. And this is going to be not this, but here we're going to say biomes with our array at position x dot under tile. And for tilemap, we just need to change that to a lowercase. And that should be everything for our biome generator script. Now we still need to head back to our world generator script here and do a few more things. So the first thing that we're going to need to do in this script here is at the top, we have our terrain generator. We're also going to need to have our biome generator. So we'll go ahead and we'll just add that right above. Oops. And this is going to be of type biome generator. And we're going to call it biome generator. And just to keep this sorted, I'm gonna move this up to the top just because I want it up here instead. And that should be all we need to add at the top here. So now we can get our reference to that script. And then here, after we generate the terrain heights, the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to generate our biomes. So maybe we'll add a comment here, generate biomes. And this is going to be, biome data with the array. And this is going to be of, we'll call it biomes. And that's going to equal our biome generator that we just added generate biomes. And that's going to take in a width and our top row heights. And then the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to actually place the biome tiles. And for that, we're going to do biome generator again, and we're going to say dot place biome tiles. And then we're going to say, this takes in the tile map, the width, the height, the top row heights, and our biomes. And for tile map, I'm just going to go ahead and change this back to lowercase because that's how we have it over here. And now for our validate components script, this is no longer correct. So let's go ahead and change tile map here as well. And we don't have the grass top tile in here anymore, but what we do have is we have our biome generator and we also have our terrain generator. So those are two things that we would want to make sure are correct. So we would also change our log message here. So it says tile map or, biome generator or terrain generator components are not assigned. Something like that. And maybe right above this, we'll add a comment just to keep it nice and neat here. And we'll say, we're generating the terrain heights. All right, so back in our editor here, we're going to want to go ahead and select our world generator. And then we're just going to want to make sure that we have everything assigned properly here. So for our tile map, we're going to have our world tile map. Biome generator is going to be the same as terrain generator for now, as we have them both the scripts attached to our world generator. And then we'll need to select each of our tiles. So, for our grass top tile, we want this one. For our dirt, snow top, we wanted the, oops, I messed that one up. So for our snow top, we wanted the ice. And then for our sand top, we wanted our sand top and our sand. So now if we click on play, we should see 3 different biomes. So we have our grass, we have our sand, and we have our snow. And you'll see that the top layer for each one of them, so the grass biome has grass on the top, and then everything below it is dirt. This one has the distinct sand top tile, and then everything else is the sand tiles. And then this one has the ice on the top, and then everything below that is snow. So that's going to be it for this video. We do have now 3 distinct biomes being generated. The next thing that we'll do is we'll maybe add in some different types of, maybe some ores or something like that in each biome here. And then we'll continue going from there. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.